11 past 4. Good afternoon. Thanks for having us on at your place today. Have you been in one career your entire working life? It's not as common these days, is it, as it used to be? Maybe you've made a career change or two, or at least thought about it. Do you reckon you could swap the job you've got now for one in a classroom? Well, earlier today, the New South Wales government announced that they would be creating new pathways for people in the middle of their career that would make it easier and quicker for them to become teachers. A new degree will allow entrants to receive a teaching qualification and, depending on their teaching experience, be in front of a class and on salary within 6 months. There's a career prospect there for me. If only there was any value in people wandering around telling people the time and the weather. It has no value, really. But apart from that, brilliant opportunity. Education Minister Sarah Mitchell says the pathways are for professionals who have experience in relevant subject areas or already have teaching experience.
At the moment, those people need to study for at least 2 years to be in a classroom. And we think with high-performing professionals, subject matter experts, particularly in areas where we know there's demand for teachers such as science and maths, we want to overhaul the system so that we can get qualified people in the classroom sooner.
So is this a good idea? Dr. David Royer is a lecturer in education at the University of Newcastle, and he's here with his thoughts this afternoon. David, thanks for coming on, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. A pleasure to be here, Paul.
So what's your immediate reaction to this announcement? Good, bad, indifference?
I have concerns about it, but I must say up front that I'm already, I have irons in the fire in this one because I'm involved in initial teacher education. So I'm not necessarily coming from this from an unbiased viewpoint, but neither am I coming from it from an unknowledgeable viewpoint. And I think there are some real problems with this whole issue. And it's a lot more nuanced than has been made out in some sectors, shall we say.
David, we hear stories from time to time. We can't get enough male teachers. We can't get enough STEM teachers. Are there shortages of varying styles and types at different times?
Oh, there are always going to be shortages in different areas and gluts in other places, depending on what is happening within society. But we generally are finding it harder to have people stay within the profession of teaching. And we can get them trained. We have good numbers coming through the universities. And it is a challenge for people sometimes to go to university, particularly doing a mid-career break. I was working with a whole group of Masters of Teaching students at the university when the ABC phoned me earlier today to say, can I speak to you? And I then talked to them about the fact that they have made a mid-career break to come to university. And they all admitted that for them, the barrier is the income drop as they get trained. So the issue isn't so much the training that is there, and some of the things that are being said in the media are maybe inaccurate. It's the fact that how do we support people to retrain so that they can support our children, and then that all teachers can get a wage that is worth retraining for.
David, it's interesting, isn't it? I'd imagine a lot of people teach because we hear stories of kids that will line up the chairs and put their teddy bears and their dolls on chairs and get the little chalkboard out. And, virtually from the day they can apply chalk to the black surface, they're kind of wanting to be teachers and stuff. There'll be a lot of people, I imagine, too, who feel like it's a great way to contribute to society. Mm-hmm. And I guess if you've actually ticked a lot of the boxes already, you've raised your family and you've got everything in order and you're financially comfortable, it's understandable that people would say, hey, this is a great opportunity to give back.
I totally agree. And one of the lovely things that has been highlighted is that they're wanting to bring in people who've got a knowledge depth. And when it comes down to it, the first thing you really need is to know your subject that you're teaching, particularly within secondary, whether it's in English or it's in drama or it's in science or mathematics. Knowledge has to be there as the backbone. It's why I really like teaching the master's students, because they already have degrees in the subjects they wish to teach. The thing is, teaching itself is another knowledge. It's not just about having knowledge of a subject, it's about being able to teach. And that's why there's a minimum requirement created by the Minister of Education and by HSO and by NESA, that there's a minimum of those 2 years of knowledge to make sure that you can actually teach, which is separate to knowing about something. Lots of us know things. That doesn't necessarily mean you're able to teach it, as many parents have discovered in the past year when they became the support teacher at home.
Yep.
So that's my concern.
Okay, presuming you're a genius at your subject matter, can you be taught how to teach in 6 months?
I think that's problematic. And we know there's been issues. I think there are better local solutions to be had. I was speaking to the new head of school at the University of Newcastle this afternoon about this, Professor Susan Ledger. You should chat to her at some point. She's really great. And she was talking that the Australian Council of Deans, that's all the heads of the schools of education at universities, are looking at new ways to try to make sure that we get more graduates into the classroom, more qualified people there. But we already know that this fast track method that was undertaken by Teach Australia has not worked. 50% or so of those people who took part in it or take part in that drop out, but it costs 5 times as much money. So it costs about $20,000 to $25,000 to train a teacher now through a university process. In that fast track process of Teach Australia, it was costing about $100,000, and yet there was a much higher dropout rate. So it's really not financially viable for the government to maybe do this if they're going to do a similar system to Teach Australia. And New South Wales was one of the few states that didn't adopt it. The ACT has already rejected it.
David, what about the complications of COVID-19? What have we learned here? And is there the risk that the decision makers, the minister and those below that, the person with that responsibility, in this case it's Sarah Mitchell, of course, is there the prospect that they will say, hey, COVID-19, remote learning, Zoom classrooms, less human resources? Is that possible? And is there empirical evidence to reject that thesis?
Well, one of the factors we know is that COVID kind of proved that we need teachers. Teachers didn't stop working during the COVID-19 lockdown. They were face-to-face through the camera with the children. And we have already research coming through that there's a group of children who were not able to engage that way through either digital poverty or other reasons, and they have fallen behind. An AI program did not teach the kids. It was individuals behind the screen who were still teaching the kids, and they were highly trained and flexible and adaptable to do that. I think, if anything, this has proven the need or the desire that we have continued great teachers. And that's one of the worrying comments is that came out of the statement today was that we need to improve teacher quality. And that therefore suggests that we don't already have great teachers. We do have really good teachers. We have systems and in place that maybe hinder that teaching. So I don't think we should be denigrating the teachers we have just now. I think we should be having more great teachers, as we already do. And I think we should be recognising them financially and saying in society, you know, this is a worthwhile occupation. And if we want people who have a good wage to move into teaching the most important group in our society, children, then we should maybe pay them to attract more people in. That's what it comes down to.
Some of the crusty old chalkies that I talk to, David, would suggest that the most essential element of a teacher these days is knowing how to conduct a meeting, because they seem to be doing an awful lot of them based on what they tell me.
Absolutely. We need to rethink their whole system to give teachers time in the classroom.
Good on you, David. Nice to get your reflections. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime, Paul.
Dr. David Roy from the University of Newcastle. And you might have some views on that. Are you a teacher? Have you got one in the family, as I have? Maybe you've got views around what's expected of teachers and the skill set and the investment that needs to be made in them to get the desired outcome. Or maybe you're an industry expert who would just love the opportunity to jump across and share your wisdom. Let us know. 0487 99 1233 is our text line.